Very good afternoon to all the students. So in the last class, we were discussing about inverse Laplace transform. We had talked about a few techniques related to partial fraction that helps us in obtaining inverse Laplace transform. And we had seen which methods we have to follow in case roots are distinct and real, in case roots are repeated, and the last case was the case of complex roots. The complex roots case I had explained by taking an example, and we did not take any new method to obtain inverse Laplace transform in case of uh, complex roots. Today, I'll continue with that complex roots calculation thing. We will complete that and then we will move to our next topic. Okay, so that's why I have kept this lecture as 15/16. Means we will first complete whatever was left in yesterday's class, and then we will move to our new topic. Fine. So yesterday we had discussed this numerical where we had seen that uh, there are two complex roots, that is -2 plus -2j, and then we had obtained this equation, and I told you that the constants corresponding to those distinct roots, they were complex conjugate of each other. So moving forward in this direction only, this is what we had seen yesterday. Then I told you that we need to calculate the value of uh, your A1. Okay, and then we had calculated the value of A1 by substituting its uh, root value. Okay, so A1 was 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2j, and then A1 star will obviously be 1 by 2 plus 1 by 2j. Okay, and then I had explained that we have to obtain inverse Laplace transform after substituting the value of A1 and A1 star in this above equation. Okay, and this is what we had received after substituting this value. Okay, so Laplace inverse of these two terms you already know. We have discussed this thing in detail. Okay, so then after you solve this thing further, and then you use the trigonometric expansion for these exponential terms, and combining the real term and the complex term, you get to obtain this final result. Okay, so here some of the terms, in fact those complex terms, they are cancelled with each other, like this minus j was cancelled with this plus j sine 2t. This term was cancelled by this term, so we are left with only the real part of the expansion. Okay, so we get 1 by 2 e raised to minus 2t 2 cos 2t minus sine 2t. This we had seen yesterday. Okay, and then this was the expression. Then by multiplying it by 12 that was there in original question, we get this solution. Okay, and then I had told you that we can make our solution compact by applying trigonometric formula or identity. So this formula has been applied. You can express sine and cosine terms in only sine by using theta. Okay, so by using this, your answer comes out to be 12 under the root 2 e raised by minus 2t cosine of 2t plus 45. So this answer is also obviously acceptable, and the earlier expression is also acceptable as answer. No need to worry. Okay, but for your knowledge sake, I have told you this method. Okay, so students, we have been able to arrive at solution for complex root the way we have done in this numerical. Okay, but there is one more way to solve this partial fraction method when there are complex roots. Okay, and that method is a bit compact and a bit straightforward, though methodology is same, but I'll directly tell you that you can follow that result. So that will give you a simpler analysis. Let us see that. So this is that we need to look into, that partial fraction expansion when QS has complex roots. Okay. So this I have already told you. We are assuming here in generalized fashion that the two roots are minus alpha minus j omega and minus alpha plus j omega. Obviously these are complex conjugate of each other. Okay. So then here you are expanding your fs in the form of partial fraction. This is a1 by s plus alpha plus j omega. This is a1 star by s plus alpha minus j omega, the same way as we have discussed in the previous numerical. Okay. And these rest of the terms, they are related to the other terms of this S domain function. Okay. We are concentrating here only for the complex root part. That's why we are focusing on a1 and a1 star only. For a3 up to an, the other methodology will apply. Okay. So these are the values of the two roots, that is minus of alpha plus j omega and minus of alpha minus j omega. And this is how we have obtained a1. In the previous numerical also, we will multiply fs with the denominator of corresponding a1, that is s plus alpha j omega. Okay. And then we will substitute the value of that root, that is s is equal to minus of alpha plus j omega. Okay. So then we'll have to obtain inverse Laplace. So this is what we have to do. Okay. This was clear from our example also. Now this is what you have to memorize. Okay. And particularly this thing for the case of your complex roots. So in case we have complex roots, you have to simply work it like this. You have to make twice of real part. 2 will be there and you have to obtain real part. Real part of this. Real part of a1 e raised to power minus of alpha plus j omega t. You have to consider only real part of this. So just have a look at the previous slide. See, this has to be substituted for these two taken together. A1 upon s plus alpha plus j omega plus a1 star by s1 s plus alpha minus j omega. For these two terms taken together, you have to use this thing, twice of real part of a1 e raised to power minus alpha plus j omega t. So students, you memorize this. This is a shortcut method to arrive at the solution in a faster manner. And the same thing will come. And in fact, in this slide only, I have taken the same example that has been solved with the help of shortcut. So let us see that these are the two roots. Okay. And if you remember, we had obtained these two roots, s12 equal to minus 2 plus minus 2j. Okay. We had calculated a1 equal to 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2j, same thing. Now we apply this formula. See, twice of real, twice of real. A1, what is our A1? 1 by 2 minus 1 by 2j. This is what we have written. This is e raised to power minus of alpha plus j omega t. We have written e raised to power minus of alpha is what? 2, then plus 2j t. This is what we have written. Now we simply need to solve this only and we will get the answer. So what we do, this is as it is. We open up the terms in the bracket. Okay. Exponent has been expanded in the form of cosine sine. We then multiply these two terms in the brackets. And since we have to calculate real part, so we will take only the real part of this multiplication of these two complex numbers. And this is what do we get. Okay. 1 by 2 taken common outside, that will be cancelled and you get this. And this is the same result, exactly same result as we have obtained in the previous numerical. Okay. Now you see how short it is, just 3 lines solution. And there we had to solve for 2-3 pages in order to arrive at the solution. So that way it gives us a faster approach, a shortcut method to come at the same solution. Okay. So this was with regard to your complex root calculation in case of your partial fraction method. So we have 12 times ft. So we have made it like this. Then this is the compact representation. And I have already told you the method that we used to solve or obtain this compact expression. Okay. So with this numerical is over. So hurriedly, I will take one more numerical related to this your complex root calculation, just to give you an idea. And then we will move to our next topic. So let us see. This is another example where fs is equal to 2s plus 3 divided by s plus 1 into s square plus 4s plus 5. Students, my objective behind considering one more example related to complex roots is that here, apart from complex roots, I have one more root which is real and distinct, that is s plus 1. Whereas in previous numerical, we had only the complex part. So we need to understand this procedure also, so that you don't get confused if you have a partial fraction which is a combination of complex roots as well as other kind of roots. Okay, so we have three roots. Two roots are complex number pair, and second is your s plus 1. So we can write it in the form of partial fraction. For complex root, we will write a1 and a1 star, and here we write a3. So these are the three factors that we have uh, in this numerical. Now we need to find out a1. So if you remember, for a1, you will be multiplying this expression fs with the factor of a1, that is s plus 2 plus j1. So you see here, s plus 2 plus j1 has been multiplied with fs, and you will be substituting the value of s as minus of 2 plus j. So this we are substituting, and once you put it, you get the answer, or you can say result of a1 as minus 1 by 4 plus 3j by 4. So obviously if a1 is this, a1 star will be this. Okay, and now we need to find out a3. So how come we find out a3? A3 is a real and distinct root. So what we will do, we will multiply fs with s plus 1. So if you do that, s plus 1 will be suppressed. So if s plus 1 is suppressed, in the remaining part, we will have to substitute the value of s equal to minus 1. See in the in the last term at the bottom of this slide, this is same thing written, s plus 1 multiplied with fs. You have to substitute s equal to minus 1. So if you put substitute value of s as minus 1, you get a3 as 1 by 2 directly. Okay, so what we have obtained, we have obtained a1, we have obtained a1 star, we have obtained a3. All three constants we have determined. So let us substitute these things. So once we do that, see, a3 by s plus 1. So a3 is 1 by 2. So it will be 1 by 2. It is frequency shifting, that is e raised by minus t ut. So this is what we have got here. 1 by 2 e raised by minus t, and ut is taken care of in this thing, that t is greater than 0. Okay. And now these two expressions, they will be considered together by adopting the shortcut that we have discussed for complex number, that is twice of real part. So see, this is twice of real part. Okay, this is a1. Okay, and here what we have, a1 into e raised power minus of alpha plus j omega t. So this is what we have done. So we'll have to evaluate this portion. Okay, so you can evaluate this thing at your home also. So once you evaluate, you will get this answer: 2 e raised by minus 2t minus 1 by 4 cos t plus 3 by 4 sin t. Okay, and you can then get the compact expression. So this is what do you get: 1.58 e raised by minus 2t sin t minus 18 by 4 and plus 1 by 2 e raised by minus t. So this is how we obtain faster solution in case of your complex roots, and in fact combination of complex roots and some other roots also. Okay, so with this, my discussion on inverse Laplace transform is over. Okay, I hope all of you have understood all the concepts related to your Laplace transform and your inverse Laplace transform. Fine. So students, after we discussed examples on inverse Laplace, there is some homework for you people. So you can take a snapshot of this slide. You have to obtain inverse Laplace transform of these two. I'll read out so that there is no confusion. E raised to power minus s divided by s plus 1. Another is e raised to power minus 2s divided by s plus 2 whole square. This is your homework, and I'll see to this homework in the next class. In fact, there are some more numericals. You also take a snapshot of this slide. You have to solve these numericals and give me the solution of these numericals. In fact, this is your assignment number 3. So all of you have to solve these questions and send me through Google Classroom. Okay. And see, you must have heard of one software, that is MATLAB. Okay, we can also verify our answer with the help of MATLAB. So before discussing about MATLAB, I'll just leave it to you people for the time being, that in Google, on internet, you search what MATLAB is. Okay, this is a software also called as Math. It is developed by MathWorks company. Okay, and student evaluation version is available online for everybody. Okay, so you can also download, and this is very, very useful software for electronics and communication engineers. So very easy to work with, and also very useful for your you can say future. So I'll advise you people, you download this software and try to know about MATLAB. Okay, and then at some point of time in between, we will talk about MATLAB and how to use MATLAB for your circuit analysis. Fine. So otherwise, apart from this MATLAB part, your other questions, these questions are to be solved by you using the methodology that we have already discussed. Okay, so with this, we finish off our topic on your inverse Laplace transform, and also you can say Laplace transform, concepts of Laplace transform. Okay, now we come to our main objective, that why at all we talked about Laplace transform. So we talked about Laplace transform because we wanted to use this Laplace transform for our circuit analysis. So here we will now try to understand the applicability of Laplace transform for circuit analysis. And let me tell you, dear students, I invested so much time in explaining Laplace transform and inverse Laplace transform to you people by considering examples, by making you practice Laplace transform, because applying Laplace transform now will be very, very easy for us. Okay, you will be surprised that it has become so easy when we do circuit analysis using Laplace transform. If you recall your transient analysis, that is your time domain behavior, when your circuit was having inductor and capacitor, if you recall those lectures, in those lectures, it was a bit difficult to analyze things. First we had to obtain transient response, then we had to obtain steady state response, we had to determine initial conditions, then we had to basically express the responses of inductor and capacitor in the form of exponents. So that was a bit, you can say, tedious process. Whereas if you apply Laplace transform to those same circuits, things will be very, very easy. All that we require is we need to convert our normal circuit components, that is your resistance, that is your inductor, that is your capacitor, into their transform, Laplace transform equivalent. Okay, we have to simply convert, we have to represent our circuit components in a different way. And once we are done with that transformation part or that representation part in a new format, then you forget about inductor, you forget about capacitor, you simply apply the rules that you have studied in your circuit analysis techniques. be it your superposition theorem, Thevenin theorem, Norton theorem, your loop analysis or say mesh analysis or your nodal analysis, your Ohm's law, everything in that case, after you transform to Laplace transform or represent using Laplace transform, it is as simple as it is a normal resistive circuit. So that is the beauty of using Laplace transform, and we are going to see those things in our coming slides. And also we will take one or two examples that will help you in reinforcing your concepts related to application of Laplace transform in circuit analysis. So let us do that. Okay, so Ohm's law, you all know, according to Ohm's law, V is equal to IR. Your voltage and current, they are function of time, because we have in our circuits your inductor and capacitor, which gives us time domain behavior. Fine. So if we take Laplace transform on both sides, Vt will become Vs. Okay. R is a constant as it is, and It will become Is. Okay. So this is a kind of, you can say, transform approach. So if you want to obtain R will be equal to Vs by Is. Okay. So your resistance is simply the ratio of voltage and current, and both in S domain. Fine. So what I'm trying to do here, I'm trying to represent resistance in S domain. Or how will I transform my resistance that was there in normal circuit to the circuits which are represented with the help of Laplace transform. So this thing shows that the ratio of voltage in S to the to current in S is simply R. It means in case of Laplace domain or S domain, there will be no change in R. R will remain R. Remember this thing, or a constant will remain constant. Okay. So there will be no change in R if you transform your circuit into Laplace transformed representation. Okay. And I'm representing it, also representing Vs by Is as Zs. Zs is nothing but impedance in S. So this is a normal, you can say, representation. Impedance incorporate your resistance, inductance, and capacitance also. That's why impedance has been shown as a function of S. Whereas if you have only resistance in the circuit, it will be R. So R will be represented as R in your S domain. Fine. No need to worry about R. Now let us see inductor. So we now need to represent inductor in S domain. Okay. So this is your inductor. Fine. Your current is entering into the inductor. The voltage across inductor is your Vt. So we have connected inductor to a time varying voltage Vt. This expression we have already discussed, that is voltage across inductor is equal to L di by dt. Okay, there will be rate of change of current. Fine. If we take Laplace transform on both sides, your Vt will become Vs. This is L di by dt. Okay. So L is a constant, it will remain outside. This is di by dt, that is differentiation in time. So differentiation of time, you know, the property of differentiation in time, it will give us SIS minus initial condition, that is I0 minus, which will be equal to I0 plus also. So what do we get? If we simplify, this is what we get. Vs is equal to SLIS minus LI0 plus. Okay. So what does it indicate? This was our normal representation of the circuit. In Laplace domain, what will happen? It will become Is, your Vt will become Vs, and your inductor, it will be represented by two elements. And what are those two elements? Your, instead of L, we will write SL or LS. LS will be a comfortable notation or representation. I am comfortable with this at least. So L has been represented as Ls. Okay, and we know that initial conditions do remain present in case of inductor and capacitor. So this is, you can say, initial condition, that is minus of Li0. So this is minus of Li0. Okay, so and a voltage source has been represented like this. So you can see here that your inductor will be represented by series combination of Ls and a voltage source whose value is minus Li0. Okay, and if initial condition is 0, in that case you will not use here, it will be simple Ls. So L will become Ls in case of your Laplace transform approach. I hope this thing is clear. So this is the representation corresponding to your voltage. If you want to see in terms of current, so you find out the value of Is from this expression. This is what do you get. So what do we have? Is equal to Vs by Ls and I0 plus, I0 by S. So we know that current tries to remain constant through inductor. If you go by that interpretation, this representation will give you more understanding. So what we have done, Is is the current entering. So this current Is is sum of this current and this current. Okay, so what we have done, we have shown this current as a current source having value I0 by S. Okay, and this is I is equal to V by R. Okay, so V is already there, R, or you can say ZS. Okay, impedance in S. For in the case of inductor, ZS is nothing but Ls. Okay, so but here why it has been shown as 1 by Ls, you are representing it by admittance. So if you represent with ZS, it will be Ls only. So Ys is equal to 1 by Ls and Zs is your Ls. Fine. So depending on whatever you are comfortable with, you can represent your inductor by both, you can say, approaches. But I normally prefer the first one in my case, in my personal opinion. Otherwise, it is up to you. Okay. So students, after discussing representation of inductor in S domain, here is one example which explains how can we represent a given circuit which has inductor in its equivalent S domain. So let us see. I told you that resistance will remain resistance, the same thing. So you have 1 ohm here. This is 1 ohm. There is no change. Wherever we have IT, this will become IS. Okay. Now you see here, this was a voltage source of value 3 e raised to power minus 8 t ut. Okay. So you can very easily see here, the Laplace transform of ut is 1 by s, and this is frequency shifting. So it will become 1 by s plus 8, and 3 is a constant. So this will become 3 by s plus 8. Rest of the things remain same. Now we are left with inductor. So how do we represent inductor? See, the current is going downward. Okay. So same is the case here. So we have to represent this inductor equivalently. So how do we do that? The value of L is 2. We will represent inductor with Ls, that is 2s. So this is 2s. Okay, and in series we have to represent with a voltage source having value minus of Li0. Okay, L we already know. So let us now try to find out the value of Li0 minus. Okay, the value of L is how much? The value of L is 2. Okay, Now we need to find out the value of I0 minus. Okay. So what will be the value of I0 minus? This is not clear from the circuit, but if you look in the numerical question, I0 minus has been given as 1 ampere. Okay. So Li0 will be 2 into 1, that is 2. And since we have to represent minus Li0, so this is nothing but minus 2 volt. So this is how we simply represent our given circuit into Laplace equivalent circuit. Very simple. So I hope now things are clear to most of the students. So let us move forward. So now we look at the representation of capacitor in S domain. So the governing equation of capacitor is I is equal to C dV by dt. We will proceed in the same way as we did for inductor. So see, this is your capacitor representation. We have applied Vt voltage across capacitor. Current is entering into the capacitor from the top side. So you take Laplace transform on both sides. I will become Is. C is a constant. This is dV by dt. So if you apply differentiation in time, this will become SVS and minus V0 minus. So we know that in case of capacitor, we have a constant voltage uh, that capacitor tries to preserve. So same kind of thing here. If you open it up, you get CS Vs minus CV0 minus. Okay. So this is the equation in terms of current, but in capacitor we are more comfortable with the voltage expression because your capacitor tries to preserve the voltage that it has initially has. So if you obtain value of Vs, you get Is by Cs plus V0 minus by S. So for capacitor, this will be better representation. Okay. So if you represent capacitor in equivalent Laplace domain, then see, we have V equal to IR or we have V equal to IZ. So you can say that the impedance of capacitor, that is Z as for capacitor, is equal to nothing but 1 by CS. I'm more comfortable with writing it as CS instead of SC. Okay. So this is your inductive, you can say, sorry, capacitive impedance, that is 1 by CS. And then we have one voltage source in series whose value is V0 by S. So see, plus minus, this is voltage source, its value is V0 by S. So this is a constant DC voltage source, and this is your capacitor represented in the form of Laplace domain. Fine. And the above expression you can represent in the form of current like this. Okay. Or in a way, these are you can say this is voltage source representation. You can convert it to its equivalent uh, current source representation. Fine. So I hope things are clear. If I conclude my discussion on representation of capacitor and inductor and resistance, so in Laplace domain, R will remain R. Okay. If you have L, L will become LS. Okay. And your C, C will become 1 by CS. Okay. This is what you have to memorize or remember. Okay. Obviously with LS, there will be some initial conditions. With one by CS also some initial conditions are there. We know that capacitor tries to preserve the voltage. So your initial condition will be in the form of voltage, whereas inductor tries to preserve the current. So initial condition will be in the form of your current. So it will be Ls minus Li0. Okay. And here it will be 1 by Cs plus V0 by S. So straightforward, nothing complex. So this is what you have to memorize. If you memorize that, then it will be a child's job to apply Laplace transform to your circuit analysis. So let us move forward. This is one example which explains uh, the application of Laplace transform in case of your capacitor and inductor is also there. So here what we have to do, we have to find out the value of mesh currents, that is I1t and I2t. So let us see how do we progress. So first, this is a voltage source which is represented as 4 e raised to minus 2t ut. So its Laplace transform will be 4 e raised to minus 2t ut is s by 2. I hope this is very clear. I1t will become I1s, I2t will become I2s. Resistance of 10 ohm will remain same, no change. Now you see, this is second voltage source, 2 e raised to minus t ut. So 2 is a constant and this will give us s plus 1. So 2 by s plus 1, this is what we have got. Now we are left with 1 by 3 farad capacitor. So I told you C will become 1 by CS. So C is 1 by 3. So 1 by CS will be, what will be the value of 1 by CS? C is 1 by 3. So 3 will come in the numerator then. So it will be 3 by S. And see one thing. In fact, I don't know whether you noticed that thing or not. It was 1 by 3 farad. And what we have written here? Ohms. With inductor also what we have written? Ohms. Means after we have represented our given circuit or inductor or capacitor into its equivalent Laplace representation, it becomes equivalent to resistance. Mind this thing or notice this thing. Try to understand this thing. So after you have done that, this is nothing but equivalent to resistance. That's it. Okay. So this is 3 by S. Okay. Then this is inductor 4 Henry. This will become 4S. So it has become 4S. So the main objective of this circuit was just to give you an idea how to represent capacitor, inductor, voltage source, resistance. Okay. And now you may ask a question that where are those initial condition part? It is clearly written in the numerical that no energy is initially stored in the circuit. So if there is no energy, there can be no initial condition, no voltage, no current before t equal to 0. Okay. So that's why your initial condition part is not there in this representation. So now let us move forward. Okay. So what we have done, we have represented this thing in the form of Laplace domain. Okay. So now you simply write your mesh equations or loop equations as we used to write it for your simple resistive circuit. And I told you that 3 by S is a resistance, 4S is a resistance. Forget about every other thing, whether it is inductor or capacitor. You simply write mesh equations, and we have done that in next slide. So let us see here that this is first mesh. So what do we have here? This is see here 3 by, you move it like this. So we have 3 by S, okay, plus 10. So these are two resistances in series. So this is there into I1, that is I1S. Now I2 is going through this 10 ohm in reverse direction. So this is minus 10 I2. Okay. And if you proceed further, it will give us minus of 4 by S plus 2. And if you shift it to right hand side, this will become plus of 4 by S plus 2. So this is equation for mesh 1. Similarly, you write for mesh 2. If you move, so what do you have? 4S and 10, they are in series, okay, with I2. So this is what we have, 4S plus 10 into I2, okay. And in 10 ohm, we have I1 also present in opposite direction. So we have minus of 10 I1, then equals to your 2S plus 1. So this way you can write current equation for mesh 2 also. And then you have two equations, two variables. Then find out the values of I1 and I2. But keep one thing in mind, the value of I1 and I2 will be in S domain. Okay. So this is what you get. I1 is equal to twice of S. This is, you can say, a rational function in S. You have one polynomial in numerator, another in denominator. And we already know the rules of inverse Laplace transform. So you apply inverse Laplace to I1, you apply inverse Laplace to I2, and this is what you get. So it is a bit lengthy. It may require some time. So I'll advise you student to solve these or obtain these inverse Laplace on your own at your home, and you should match your answer. I hope now things are very, very clear to all the students. And you also now must be clear that why I was emphasizing so much on Laplace transform. So if you are not comfortable with Laplace transform, how will you obtain I1t from I1s? How will you obtain I2t from I2s? And these are, something you can say difficult looking expressions. So you may have to fight with it to arrive at the solution. And let me tell you, dear students, if the same question we would have solved using your time domain analysis or transient analysis, things would have been so difficult. Whereas with the application of Laplace transform in this circuit, things have become so easy. It is simple mesh analysis. We need not do anything else. Our inductor, our capacitor, all have become, simple resistive element after applying your Laplace transform. Fine. So, dear students, now we will look at one more example that will further reinforce our concepts. So in this example, we have to calculate the value of voltage, that is Vx, and Vx is this nodal voltage. And again, we will see that how Laplace transform makes our life easy when we analyze our circuits by using Laplace transform. Okay, so let us see first the voltage source. This is the voltage source. Fine. So if you take the Laplace transform of this voltage source, this will come out to be 2 is 2 by S and 5 is also 5 by S. So this will be your 7 by S. Fine. Resistance of 1 ohm remains same, that is 1 ohm. This second voltage source 4 ut, this becomes 4 by S. Okay. Now inductor 4 Henry, this becomes 4s ohm. Okay. Then your capacitor of 1 by 2 farad, this will become 1 by Cs, that is your 2 by S. Now, now we are left with initial conditions. So we will have to find out whether there are some initial condition in inductor or in capacitor. So wherever we have initial conditions present, there we will add some voltage source or current source. Otherwise we will proceed. So students, here you will have to apply mind, because we are not given directly in the circuit that there are some initial conditions or not. By looking at the circuit carefully, we will have to see that. See, this voltage source is 4 ut, means this is not existing before t at t less than 0. It means this voltage source is not there. Okay, so it is open circuit, means across 4 Henry there is no initial condition. There can be no initial condition. That's why it is 4s. If you look at this voltage source, here it is 5 ut. So it means for t less than 0, this does not exist. But there is a value 2, means 2 volt voltage source is present in this circuit for t less than 0. Okay. Only this thing is existing. So let us assume that 2 is present. So obviously this circuit is there or is in operation for t less than 0. This is not present. So that's why this inductor is, you can say, open-ended here. Okay. So if we do that, we know that capacitor will charge itself to this 2 volt. So it means the voltage across this capacitor will be how much? 2 volt. This will be the voltage across the capacitor. Fine. So now let us see, since in this circuit solution, this representation has been used. Okay. So this we have already seen. So we have a current source in parallel whose value is CV0 minus, and value of C is how much? C is 1/2. Okay. And what is the value of V0? V0 is 2 volt. 2 volt. So this gives us 1 ampere. And see, this 1 ampere has been shown here. Okay. So this is how we have obtained the Laplace equivalent circuit for this given circuit. And once we have done that, now this is a simple circuit which you can easily solve using your circuit analysis tech. So students, after this representation, now we move forward and we try to obtain solution. So just by applying circuit techniques, what we are doing, we are applying the nodal analysis. We are applying KCL to this node. So that application of KCL, you already know that sum of all the currents at a node, incoming currents and outgoing current is 0. Okay. So that's why this thing has been represented. If you solve this, your Vx will be nothing but a function of S. Okay. So this is Vs. You have to apply inverse Laplace transform and you will be able to get Vt. Okay. And this is how you get the answer. I'll advise you all students to apply inverse Laplace transform and try to find the answer yourself, so that you are able to practice the application of inverse Laplace transform. Okay. So this is what Vx was there in S domain. Now, if you want to check whether your answer is correct or not, if you remember, I told you, I talked about initial conditions and final conditions. So in the initial condition theorem, what we do, we make our S tending to infinity. So this is Vx. So if you want to check the initial condition, then what we are doing, we are trying to put this S tends to infinity, and because we want to find out the initial condition across capacitor, this is Vx, but we need to find out the voltage across capacitor, that is Vc. So from Vx, you will first obtain Vc. This is what you get as Vc. And here you will make your S tending to infinity. Okay. And if you do that, this comes out to be 2 volt. And this is what we had obtained. See, we had obtained the initial voltage across capacitor as 2 volt, and same thing we have obtained here also. It means our solution is perfectly fine. Okay. So students, now I think you are able to appreciate the significance of Laplace transform in your circuit analysis. Okay. And I'm again and again emphasizing on this thing, that you practice a lot and you should become most comfortable with your Laplace transform. So if you are perfect in the application of Laplace transform or the solution of Laplace transform questions, then applying that Laplace transform to circuit analysis will be a simple thing. Okay. So with this today's class, now I am able to complete our unit number 1. So it had mainly 2 components. One is your transient analysis, and second was your Laplace transform, and third thing was application of Laplace transform to those transient analysis circuits. Okay. So I have today completed unit number 1 of your syllabus, and I hope all of you have understood all the things. So one assignment will be shared to you after this class, and you will have to solve that assignment during weekend and submit it by next week. Okay. So I stop here. Thank you. Thank you very much.